Nia Foster thought the prestigious Seoul Culinary Institute scholarship was her ticket to becoming a chef. Then she met Chef Kang Jun-woo, billionaire restaurateur, culinary genius, and the most demanding instructor she'd ever encountered. "Open your mouth and take it," he commanded, shoving a spoonful of his sauce past her lips during their first class. "You cannot critique what you will not taste." She had no idea that tasting his food was just the beginning. Nia Foster stood outside the massive glass and steel building that housed the Seoul Culinary Institute, clutching her acceptance letter with shaking hands, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was really happening. She was actually here, standing in Seoul, South Korea, thousands of miles from her tiny apartment in Detroit, about to walk through those intimidating glass doors into what was arguably the most prestigious culinary school in Asia. She'd actually won the full scholarship, one of only 10, awarded globally each year out of over 3,000 applicants. A black girl from Detroit's West Side who'd learned to cook in her grandmother's cramped kitchen, who'd worked double shifts at Denny's to put herself through community college, who'd sent in her application on a whim at 2 in the morning after a particularly exhausting shift, never actually believing anything would come of it. And yet here she was. The scholarship covered everything: tuition, room and board, living expenses, even a food allowance for exploring Seoul's incredible culinary scene. It was a completely life-changing opportunity that people spent years preparing for and dreaming about. Nia had 6 weeks between acceptance and departure to get her affairs in order, obtain her visa, pack her entire life into 2 suitcases, and say goodbye to everything familiar. She took a long, steadying breath, smoothed down the crisp white chef's coat she'd bought specifically for this program, adjusted the black chef's cap covering her natural hair that she'd braided into neat cornrows the previous night, and forced her feet to move forward through those glass doors into the gleaming, intimidating lobby. The interior was even more impressive and intimidating than the exterior. Polished marble floors that reflected the morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art installations on the walls, abstract pieces that probably cost more than Nia's annual salary at Denny's. A massive open demonstration kitchen visible through glass walls where students in pristine white uniforms were already working at gleaming stainless steel stations. Everything screamed expensive perfection. "Excuse me, are you Nia Foster?" A young Korean woman in elegant professional attire approached with a warm, welcoming smile and a leather-bound portfolio. "Welcome to Seoul Culinary Institute. I'm Park Ji-hyun, the International Student Coordinator. We've been expecting you. How was your flight from Detroit?" "Long but good, thank you," Nia said, relieved that Ji-hyun spoke perfect, unaccented English. Nia's Korean was embarrassingly limited to the basic survival phrases she'd frantically memorized from YouTube videos during her 6 weeks of preparation. "And thank you so much for arranging the airport pickup. That driver was a lifesaver. I would have been completely lost trying to navigate the subway system with all my luggage." "Of course, that's what we're here for. International students always get airport pickup service. It's part of your scholarship package." Ji-hyun's smile was genuinely warm as she gestured for Nia to follow. "Let me give you a quick tour of the facilities before orientation begins at 9. I know everything must feel overwhelming right now, but I promise you'll adjust quickly. Most of our international scholarship recipients say the first week is the hardest, and then suddenly it clicks and Seoul starts feeling like home." As they walked through the Institute's sprawling, state-of-the-art facility, Ji-hyun provided a running commentary that somehow managed to be both informative and reassuring. The Institute was founded 15 years ago by Chef Kang Jun-woo, who remains our director and head instructor. He's quite famous throughout Asia. He owns and operates 17 restaurants across Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Bangkok. 3 Michelin stars personally, 5 more stars distributed across his various restaurants. He's considered one of the youngest culinary geniuses in the world, and definitely one of the most successful. Forbes estimated his personal net worth at over $400 million last year, though he never talks about money publicly. You'll be learning directly from him, which honestly is an incredible privilege. Most culinary students never get access to someone of his caliber. I've seen him on television, Nia admitted as they passed through a professional-grade pastry kitchen that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel. That Netflix cooking competition show he judged last year. He seemed extremely intense. That's probably the most diplomatic way anyone has ever described Chef Kang, Ji-hyun said with a knowing laugh. He has exceptionally high standards. He's demanding, he's a perfectionist, and he absolutely does not tolerate mediocrity, excuses, or laziness. He will push you harder than you've ever been pushed before. He will criticize your work in ways that might feel harsh or even cruel at first. He will make you question whether you're good enough, whether you belong here, whether you made a terrible mistake coming to Seoul. But, and this is important, if you can meet his standards, if you can rise to his challenges, if you can push through the difficulty and self-doubt, you'll learn more in 6 months here than most chefs learn in 5 or even 10 years working in professional kitchens elsewhere. His teaching methods are brutal, but they're also extraordinarily effective. They continued the tour, passing through various specialized areas, the main demonstration kitchen with stadium-style seating overlooking a professional cooking station, the advanced molecular gastronomy lab filled with equipment Nia couldn't even name, the wine cellar stocked with thousands of bottles, the library containing what must have been 10,000 cookbooks and culinary texts in multiple languages, the private dining rooms where students could practice service, the rooftop herb garden where they grew their own fresh ingredients. Everything was absolutely top of the line, equipped with the best tools and ingredients money could buy. Nia had never seen anything like it. The community college culinary program she'd attended in Detroit had been housed in a repurposed high school with equipment that was probably 20 years old. This was a different universe entirely. Your cohort consists of 10 scholarship students from around the world, Ji-hyun explained as they walked back toward the main demonstration kitchen. 2 students from Japan, 1 from Thailand, 1 from France, 2 from China, 1 from Brazil, 1 from India, 1 from Australia, and you representing the United States. All classes are conducted in English since it's the common language everyone shares. But Chef Kang will occasionally teach certain traditional techniques in Korean and expect you to understand through careful observation and context. The language barrier is intentional. He believes that truly understanding cooking transcends language, that you should be able to learn by watching and doing, even when you can't understand every word being spoken. That sounds incredibly challenging, Nia said, feeling her anxiety spike higher. It absolutely is challenging. But you wouldn't have been selected if Chef Kang didn't believe you could handle it. He personally reviews every single scholarship application, every essay, every portfolio, every letter of recommendation. Out of 3,000 applicants this year, he chose you. That means he saw something special in your work, something worth investing in. Your application essay about learning to cook in your grandmother's kitchen and your portfolio of soul food dishes reimagined with modern techniques, those clearly resonated with him. He chose you for a specific reason, even if that reason isn't clear to you yet. They arrived at the large demonstration kitchen, where the other 9 scholarship students were already assembled, all wearing pristine chef's whites identical to Nia's, all looking some combination of excited, nervous, and terrified. Ji-hyun introduced Nia to the group quickly. Marie from France, Kenji and Yuki from Japan, Chen and Lin from China, Suda from Thailand, Raphael from Brazil, Priya from India, and James from Australia. Everyone seemed friendly but focused, the air thick with nervous anticipation. Orientation begins in exactly 5 minutes, Ji-hyun said, checking her elegant watch. Good luck to all of you. You're about to begin an incredible journey. Embrace the challenge. Nia took a seat near the middle of the classroom-style seating, introducing herself quietly to Marie and Priya, who sat nearby. They exchanged nervous smiles and whispered good lucks, but mostly everyone sat in tense silence, watching the clock count down the final minutes. At precisely 9 o'clock, not 1 second before or after, the door at the front of the demonstration kitchen opened and Chef Kang Jun-woo walked in. The change in the room's atmosphere was immediate and palpable. Every student sat up straighter. Every whispered conversation stopped mid-sentence. All eyes locked on the man who just entered. Nia's breath caught in her throat. She'd seen Chef Kang on television, of course, but seeing him in person was a completely different experience. He was tall, probably 6 feet or slightly more, with the kind of commanding physical presence that made the large kitchen suddenly feel smaller, more intimate. He looked to be in his mid-30s, dressed in immaculate black chef's whites that somehow made him look even more authoritative than standard white ones would have. His name was embroidered in both Korean characters and English on the left breast of his chef's coat. His dark hair was styled back from his face, showing off sharp, angular features, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, a mouth pressed into a serious, assessing line. But it was his eyes that truly captured her attention. Dark, penetrating, intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything, miss nothing, analyze and categorize every detail they observed. He looked at the assembled students with an expression that somehow managed to be simultaneously welcoming and challenging. Like he was genuinely glad they were here, but also already wondering which of them would fail to meet his standards. "Welcome to Seoul Culinary Institute," he said in English with a noticeable Korean accent that somehow made his words sound even more authoritative. His voice was deep, controlled, the voice of someone completely accustomed to being obeyed without question or hesitation. "I am Chef Kang Jun-woo. For the next 6 months, I will be your primary instructor, your harshest critic. And if you prove yourselves worthy through dedication and hard work, potentially your mentor and lifelong professional connection." He began walking slowly along the front of the demonstration area, his hands clasped behind his back in a formal posture, his eyes methodically scanning each student individually. When his gaze landed on Nia, she felt it like a physical touch, assessing, measuring, cataloging. She forced herself to maintain eye contact, to not look away or show weakness. "You 10 individuals have been selected from over 3,000 applicants worldwide," he continued, his voice filling the space effortlessly without him raising his volume at all. "You represent what I have determined to be the most promising young culinary talent in your respective countries. You are here because I personally saw something in your applications that intrigued me. Passion, creativity, potential, hunger to learn and improve, willingness to be challenged. But I want to be absolutely clear about something from the very beginning. Potential means nothing without execution. Passion means nothing without discipline. Hunger to learn means nothing without the humility to accept that you know very little and must be rebuilt from the foundation up." He stopped walking and turned to face them directly, his expression serious and unwavering. "I do not believe in gentle teaching methods. I do not believe in excessive praise or constant encouragement or protecting students' feelings. I believe in brutal honesty. I believe in pushing students far beyond what they believe they are capable of achieving. I believe in breaking down bad habits and incorrect techniques and rebuilding proper fundamentals from absolute zero. I will be harsh with you. I will be demanding in ways you have probably never experienced before. I will criticize your work without sugarcoating my assessments. I will make you question whether you truly want this career, whether you're good enough, whether you made a terrible mistake coming here. And if you cannot handle that level of rigorous instruction, if you need constant validation and gentle encouragement, then you should leave now, before we waste each other's valuable time." He paused, letting the words sink in. No one moved. No one spoke. Nia felt her heart pounding but kept her gaze steady. "Good," Chef Kang said with the barest hint of approval. "Then we begin immediately. No more talking about cooking. We cook. Today we start with the most fundamental and most important skill in all of cooking, understanding salt. Most amateur cooks, and sadly many professional cooks as well, do not properly understand salt. They either under-season out of fear or over-season out of ignorance. They add it randomly without understanding its purpose. They treat it as an afterthought, rather than the fundamental building block of flavor that it actually is. Today, you will learn the difference between cooking with salt and simply adding salt. By the end of this session, you will understand salt better than 95% of people who call themselves cooks. What followed was 3.5 hours of the most intense, detailed, rigorous culinary instruction Nia had ever experienced in her life. Chef Kang demonstrated techniques with a level of precision and grace that was genuinely beautiful to watch, almost balletic in its controlled perfection. His knife skills were absolutely extraordinary. Perfect brunoise cuts so uniform they looked machine-made. Perfect julienne strips that could have been measured with a ruler. His movements were economical and purposeful. No wasted motion, everything flowing smoothly from one step to the next. He explained the science behind salt with the precision of a chemistry professor. How sodium chloride interacts with proteins and starches at a molecular level. How different types of salt, kosher, sea salt, Malden, fleur de sel, behave differently due to crystal size and mineral content. How the timing of salting affects both flavor penetration and texture in different ingredients. How to taste and adjust seasoning progressively rather than trying to fix everything at the end. Then he made them practice. Each student was assigned a simple dish, pan-seared chicken breast with a pan sauce made from the drippings. It was deliberately basic, something that anyone who'd spent even a month in a professional kitchen should be able to execute. But the simplicity was the point. A dish this basic revealed everything about a cook's fundamental skills and understanding. There was nowhere to hide mistakes, no complexity to mask poor technique. Chef Kang moved through the kitchen, observing each student closely, offering corrections in a clipped, no-nonsense tone that somehow managed to be instructive without being cruel, though certainly not gentle. "Your knife grip is completely wrong. You are choking the blade like you are trying to strangle it. Hold it like this. Pinch grip on the blade itself, not the handle. Control comes from your fingers on the blade, not your palm squeezing the handle. Start over and recut everything. Your pan is not nearly hot enough. You are boiling and steaming the chicken, not searing it. You will get gray, rubbery meat instead of a proper golden crust. Remove that chicken. Heat your pan properly. You should see wisps of smoke. Then start over. You added the salt far too early in the cooking process. The chicken will expel moisture and become tough and dry. You have ruined it. Start over and this time salt immediately before it goes in the pan, not 5 minutes before." When he reached Nia's station, she was already nervous, hyper-aware of his presence beside her, trying desperately to execute everything perfectly. She was carefully searing her chicken breast, watching the color develop on the bottom, listening to the sizzle to gauge temperature. "Stop what you're doing," he commanded suddenly. Nia froze immediately, her hand hovering over the pan with her tongs, her heart hammering. He reached past her, his arm brushing briefly against hers in a way that made her skin tingle despite the tension, and picked up her chicken breast with the tongs, examining it from multiple angles with a critical eye. The sear is adequate, not excellent, but adequate for a first attempt with limited instruction. "What exactly did you season this chicken with?" "Kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper, chef, just like you demonstrated." "Show me exactly how much salt you used. Demonstrate the quantity." Nia reached into the small bowl of kosher salt at her station and pinched what she'd used, showing him the amount between her fingers. More. You need substantially more. You are being timid with your seasoning, afraid of salt because you think it is safer to undersalt than to oversalt. This is fundamentally wrong thinking that will cripple your cooking. Under-seasoned food is bland, forgettable, disappointing. Properly seasoned food is vibrant and memorable and satisfying. I would rather you oversalt dramatically and learn where the actual boundary is than constantly undersalt and learn nothing. Be bold. Cooking requires courage. He set down her chicken and picked up the sauce spoon from beside her pan. Now taste this pan sauce you have created. Nia reached for a clean tasting spoon from the container on her station. No, too slow. The sauce is ready to taste now, not in 30 seconds when you locate a clean spoon and walk over here. Open your mouth. She looked at him in confusion, not quite understanding what he meant. Open your mouth and taste, he repeated, his tone commanding in a way that allowed no argument or hesitation. His dark eyes locked on hers with intense focus. You are wasting time. The sauce temperature and consistency are correct now. Open your mouth and take it. Nia opened her mouth, feeling awkward and uncertain and weirdly vulnerable. And Chef Kang placed the sauce spoon past her lips, resting it gently on her tongue. The sauce hit her taste buds, rich, buttery, with white wine and shallots and fresh thyme and chicken drippings, creating complex layers. It was genuinely good. She'd done well with the technique. What do you taste? He asked, his eyes still locked on her face with that unsettling intensity, watching her reaction carefully. I taste butter, white wine, shallots, thyme, and chicken stock, Nia said after swallowing, analyzing the components. And it needs more salt. The flavors are there, but they're muted. It's under-seasoned. Exactly correct. You made the same mistake twice in one dish. You are afraid of salt. You must get over this fear immediately, or you will never cook at a professional level. Make the sauce again from the beginning. This time season it properly at each stage of development. I will return in exactly 10 minutes, and you will taste it for me again and tell me it is perfect. Not good, not adequate. Perfect. He moved on to the next student before Nia could respond, already criticizing someone else's technique. She made the sauce again, this time salting more aggressively and tasting constantly. When Chef Kang returned precisely 10 minutes later as promised, she was learning he was obsessively punctual. She had a fresh spoonful ready. Taste, he commanded in that same authoritative tone. This time she was prepared. She opened her mouth without hesitation, and he placed the spoon past her lips. The sauce was substantially better, properly seasoned, balanced, the flavors singing together rather than muddling. Better? He asked. Much better, Chef. This is properly seasoned. The salt brings out all the other flavors instead of hiding them. You are learning, slowly but learning. This is acceptable work. He moved on without further comment. For Chef Kang, acceptable seemed to be high praise. Nia noticed he hadn't used that word with any other student yet. By the end of that first day, Nia was completely exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally drained. Her feet ached from standing for over 6 hours straight on the hard kitchen floor. Her hands smelled like garlic and shallots and chicken despite washing them multiple times. Her chef's whites were stained with sauce and grease and various cooking mishaps. Her back hurt from bending over her station. But despite the exhaustion, she felt more alive and challenged and engaged than she had in years. She'd learned more about the fundamentals of cooking in one day than she'd learned in an entire semester at her community college program in Detroit. How was your first day? Ji Hyun asked when Nia returned to the Small but comfortable studio apartment the institute provided for scholarship students in a building about 10 minutes walk from the main facility. Brutal, intense, exhausting, incredible, Nia said, collapsing onto her small but comfortable couch, every muscle in her body protesting. Chef Kang is even more demanding in person than he appeared on television. He doesn't accept anything less than perfect. But he also explains everything so clearly. The way he broke down the science of salt and seasoning, I've never understood it that deeply before. It all suddenly makes sense. That's the Seoul Culinary Institute experience in a nutshell, Ji-hyun said with a knowing, sympathetic smile. The first week is always the hardest because you're adjusting to his teaching style and his standards. But it gets easier as you learn what he expects. Or maybe not easier. Maybe you just get stronger and more capable. Either way, it works. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow you start at 7 a.m. Sharp. 7 a.m.? Class started at 9 today. Orientation started at 9 today. Regular instruction starts at 7 a.m. daily and goes until 6 p.m. 11 hours of class 6 days a week. Sunday is your only day off, and most students spend it practicing anyway, because the kitchens are open for independent study. That's intense. You have no idea. But again, you'll adapt. You were chosen for this. You can handle it. Over the following weeks, Nia fell into the absolutely grueling rhythm of the program. Up at 6 a.m. to shower and dress and grab a quick breakfast. In the institute kitchens by 7 a.m., classes until 6 p.m. with only a brief lunch break. Then usually staying later to practice weak areas or prepare for upcoming demonstrations. Home by 8 or 9 p.m. Quick dinner, study technique videos or read assigned cookbook chapters. Asleep by 11 if she was lucky. Repeat 6 days a week. It was relentless and exhausting, and she'd never worked so hard in her entire life. But she was also learning at an exponential rate. Each day brought new techniques, new ingredients, new methods, new understandings. They progressed from basic fundamentals like knife skills and seasoning to more complex techniques, sauce making, protein cookery, vegetable preparations, pastry basics, fermentation, curing, and preserving. Chef Kang was consistently demanding with everyone, never satisfied, always pushing harder. But Nia also began noticing patterns in his teaching style. Yes, he was harsh, sometimes brutally so. But he was equally harsh with everyone, which somehow made it less personal and more just professional standards. He criticized technique and execution, not people. He pushed students beyond their comfort zones, but never actually beyond their capabilities. He seemed to have an instinct for knowing exactly how far each person could be pushed. And occasionally, very occasionally, when someone did something truly excellent, he would give the barest nod of approval or a single word of acknowledgement. Good or acceptable or correct that somehow felt more valuable and meaningful than lavish praise from anyone else would have. She also noticed that Chef Kang seemed to pay particular, focused attention to her work specifically. He spent more time at her station than at others. He gave her more detailed feedback, longer explanations. When he corrected her technique, his hands would linger on hers for an extra moment, physically positioning her fingers correctly on a knife or showing her the proper angle for a cut. When he demonstrated new techniques at the front of the class, he often positioned himself where she specifically could see most clearly, making brief eye contact with her to ensure she was watching. I think Chef Kang has taken a special interest in you, Marie, the French student whispered during a rare break one afternoon about 3 weeks into the program. He's much harder on you than anyone else, which in this environment means he sees serious potential. That's how he teaches. The more potential he sees, the harder he pushes. Students he thinks are just adequate, he basically ignores. Students he thinks have real talent, he destroys and rebuilds. He's just teaching, Nia protested, though she'd noticed the pattern too and didn't quite know what to make of it. No, really, watch him carefully. He barely glances at some students. They could be making massive mistakes, and he just walks past. But you? He watches every single move you make. Every technique, every cut, every seasoning decision. He observes you constantly. That's not standard teaching. That's focused interest. Over the following days, Nia couldn't help noticing it more and more. Chef Kang's eyes did seem to find her frequently across the kitchen. When he demonstrated techniques, he did seem to position himself where she could see clearly. When he corrected her work, his hands did linger on hers just slightly longer than strictly necessary to convey the correction. When she stayed late to practice, which she did often, determined to meet his standards, he also stayed late, ostensibly to do paperwork or prep for next day's classes. But she'd catch him watching her work from his office window that overlooked the kitchen. 5 weeks into the program, during an advanced sauce-making class that was particularly challenging, everything shifted in a way Nia didn't expect. They were making a classic demi-glace, a notoriously difficult sauce that required literally hours of careful work, precise technique, and deep understanding of flavor development. It was the kind of sauce that separated serious cooks from amateurs. Nia had been working on hers for most of the day, 6 hours at least, carefully reducing the stock, repeatedly skimming impurities from the surface, slowly layering in aromatics and wines and herbs, building depth gradually. Chef Kang approached her station around 4 p.m. and tasted her sauce, with his usual critical expression, taking his time to analyze the flavors. "This is wrong," he pronounced after a long moment. "The flavor profile is muddled and confused. You have added too many competing elements without proper balance. Everything is fighting for dominance rather than harmonizing. You have wasted 6 hours producing something mediocre. Start over from the beginning." "Start over?" Nia repeated, feeling frustration rise up hot and sharp after hours and hours of careful work. "I've been working on this since 9 this morning. That's 7 hours of work. 7 hours. And you have wasted 7 hours making something that is not good enough. Better to start over now and do it correctly than to continue with something fundamentally flawed. Start over. But if you would just tell me specifically what's wrong instead of just saying it's muddled. I am not here to give you all the answers. I am here to teach you to taste critically, to analyze what you are tasting, and to adjust accordingly based on that analysis. You need to develop your palate and your instincts. I cannot do that for you. Start over." Something inside Nia snapped. The accumulated exhaustion of 5 weeks of the most intensive instruction she'd ever experienced. The constant criticism, the relentless standards, the grueling schedule, the perpetual feeling of never being quite good enough. All of it boiled over. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice rising louder than she intended in the quiet kitchen. "You can't just tell students to start over without giving specific feedback. That's not teaching. That's just being cruel for the sake of being cruel. That's not helpful instruction. It's just ego." The entire kitchen went completely silent. Every student stopped what they were doing. Every head turned toward Nia and Chef Kang. Conversations died mid-sentence. No one had ever challenged Chef Kang so directly and publicly before. Ever. He turned to face her fully, his expression completely unreadable. "You think I am being cruel? I think you're being unnecessarily harsh without giving me the tools to actually improve. I've worked 7 hours on this sauce. 7 hours. The least you could do is tell me specifically what's wrong instead of just saying it's mediocre and dismissing all that work. You want specific feedback? Fine. Come with me now." He gestured toward the front demonstration area. "Bring your sauce." Nia followed, her heart pounding, acutely aware that all eyes in the kitchen were following them, that she'd just done something that might get her expelled. But she was too frustrated and tired to back down now. Chef Kang took her sauce to his demonstration station and tasted it again, this time more carefully, his expression concentrating deeply on analyzing the flavors. This sauce contains red wine, correct? Yes, chef. And you added tomato paste for depth? Yes, just a small amount like the recipe suggested. And soy sauce for umami? Just a little bit, yes. Here is your fundamental problem, Miss Foster. You have too many bold, assertive flavors competing for attention without any subtlety to balance them. Red wine is bold and tannic. Tomato paste is bold and sweet acidic. Soy sauce is bold and salty umami. When you combine multiple bold elements without proper supporting flavors and without understanding how they interact, they fight each other rather than harmonizing. The result is confused and muddy. Your instinct to add more flavor is not wrong. Your execution is wrong. You need to think about flavor the way a musician thinks about harmony. You need bass notes, middle notes, high notes, all working together in balance. Right now you have only bass notes, all competing to be the loudest. Do you understand this concept? I think so. It's about balance between bold and subtle? Exactly. Watch me carefully now. I will demonstrate once, and then you will make it again properly with this new understanding. What followed was an intense 20-minute masterclass in sauce building that every single student in the kitchen learned from. Chef Kang started completely over from scratch, explaining every single addition, every technique, every decision about flavor balance and development. He talked about why he added ingredients in a specific order, why certain aromatics needed to be added early for background depth, while others needed to be added late for brightness. Why some wines worked better than others. How to layer umami without overwhelming the palate. When he finished, the sauce was genuinely transcendent, rich, complex, beautifully balanced, the kind of sauce that would make people remember a meal. Taste this, he said to Nia, holding out a clean spoon. She opened her mouth and he placed the spoon past her lips. The sauce was absolutely incredible. Everything hers had tried to be but failed to achieve. She could taste every layer, the deep stock base, the wine providing structure, the aromatics giving complexity, the reduced tomato adding brightness, the final adjustment of seasoning bringing everything into perfect focus. Do you understand the difference now? He asked, his dark eyes locked on hers with that focused intensity that always made her breath catch slightly. Yes. It's not about just adding bold flavors. It's about building a structure where bold and subtle work together. Exactly correct. This is not an easy concept to grasp without experiencing it. Now you have experienced it. Make your sauce again from the beginning. You have 3 hours until class ends at 6 p.m. If you cannot complete it by then, you will stay as late as necessary tonight to finish it correctly. I will not let you leave until this is done properly. I'll finish it, chef. I expect nothing less than perfection now that you understand the principle. Nia returned to her station, feeling energized despite the long day. This time, armed with actual understanding rather than just following a recipe blindly, the sauce came together completely differently. She tasted constantly, adjusted carefully, built flavors in layers rather than throwing everything together. She thought about balance at every stage, bold elements offset by subtle ones, assertive flavors supported by background depth. 2.5 hours later, she had a sauce that was genuinely excellent. Not quite as perfect as Chef Kang's demonstration, but very good. Actually good, not just adequate. Chef Kang tasted it carefully and gave a single, brief nod. This is acceptable work. This demonstrates proper understanding of flavor balance. Remember this process and this feeling. Tomorrow, we build on this foundation with more complex sauces. Well done. Well done. She'd never heard him say that to anyone before. Those 2 words felt like winning an Olympic medal. After class, as Nia was cleaning her station and putting away her tools, Chef Kang approached her privately. Miss Foster, I would like to speak with you in my office briefly. Please come when you have finished cleaning your station. She followed him to his private office, adjacent to the main kitchen, about 10 minutes later, her stomach tight with nerves. Was she about to be expelled for her outburst? Disciplined for challenging his authority in front of other students? "Close the door and sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. She did, perching nervously on the edge of the seat, prepared for whatever criticism or consequences were coming. "Today in class, you challenged me publicly in front of the other students," he began, his tone neutral but serious. "I'm sorry, Chef. That was inappropriate. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. I let my frustration get the better of me." "I am not finished speaking." His voice wasn't harsh, just firm. "You challenged me, which demonstrated a lack of respect for my authority as your instructor and disrupted the learning environment. However, you also showed passion, fire, willingness to stand up for yourself and demand better instruction when you felt you were not receiving it. These qualities, when properly channeled and directed, are extremely valuable in a chef. A kitchen brigade is not a democracy. There must be clear hierarchy and authority. But a good head chef also listens to input from their team, considers feedback, and creates an environment where people feel they can speak up when something is genuinely wrong. You showed courage today, even if your method was flawed. I thank you, I think. I am not looking for apologies or gratitude. I am explaining something important that you need to understand. You have genuine talent, Miss Foster. Real, substantial talent. I have been teaching for over 12 years. I can recognize potential when I see it, and you have potential to be exceptional. But you also have significant fear holding you back. You are afraid to be bold with your flavors, afraid to trust your instincts, afraid to take risks in case you fail. This fear creates a ceiling on what you can achieve. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think so. You're saying my technical skills are good, but I'm playing it too safe? Exactly. You have excellent fundamental technique. Your knife skills are precise. Your cooking times are accurate. Your understanding of heat management is solid. But you cook with hesitation, always pulling back slightly, never committing fully. Great cooking requires commitment and confidence. You must learn to trust yourself. How do I do that? By pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone repeatedly, until the uncomfortable becomes comfortable. By tasting constantly, and learning to recognize the difference between good and exceptional. By being willing to fail dramatically in pursuit of excellence, rather than consistently producing safe, acceptable mediocrity that never challenges you or anyone else. I am harder on you than I am on many other students because I see your potential clearly. I push you specifically because I believe you can be pushed successfully. Do you understand this? Yes, Chef. Thank you for explaining that. Tomorrow we continue with advanced sauces. Come prepared to work hard and to be challenged. Dismissed. Nia left his office feeling strangely energized and motivated despite the long, exhausting day. Chef Kang saw her potential. He believed in her capabilities enough to push her harder than others. That meant something significant. Over the following weeks, their dynamics shifted in subtle ways. Chef Kang was still demanding, still critical when her work wasn't excellent. But there was an undercurrent now of something else. A connection, an understanding, maybe even the beginning of mutual respect. When he corrected her technique, his touch on her hands would linger perhaps a moment longer than strictly necessary to convey the correction. When she successfully executed a difficult technique, his eyes would meet hers, with unmistakable approval and something that looked almost like pride. When she stayed late to practice, which she did frequently, he would stay late as well, ostensibly to work on administrative tasks, but often ending up providing guidance that felt increasingly like private mentoring rather than just instruction. 8 weeks into the program, During a particularly late practice session one Thursday evening, Nia was working alone in the main kitchen, trying to perfect a complex Vietnamese dish they'd learned earlier that week. Most students had left hours ago. The institute was quiet, except for the sounds of her cooking. She didn't notice Chef Kang enter until he spoke from directly behind her. "You are here very late, Miss Foster. It is nearly 10 p.m. She jumped, almost dropping her knife. "Chef Kang, I didn't hear you come in. I wanted to practice this dish until I could execute it perfectly. We have the practical exam next week, and this is one of the dishes we might be tested on. I want to be completely prepared. Show me what you have made so far." She plated the dish as carefully as she could, a complex Vietnamese rice noodle soup with multiple components, all requiring precise timing and technique. She'd made it 4 times already tonight. This 4th attempt was her best work yet. Chef Kang tasted it slowly, methodically, his expression concentrating the way it always did when he was seriously analyzing flavors and technique. "Much better. Substantially better than your first attempt in class earlier this week. The broth has good depth of flavor. I can taste the star anise and cinnamon and ginger clearly. The noodles are properly cooked, tender, but still having nice texture. The herbs are fresh and aromatic. The protein is not overcooked. But," he paused, and Nia waited anxiously. "But?" she prompted, when he didn't continue immediately. "But it still lacks something essential. It is technically correct, which is good. But it is emotionally empty. Do you understand what I mean by this? Not really. How can food be emotionally empty if it's technically correct? Cooking is not only about technique, Miss Foster. Technique is the foundation, yes. But great cooking is also about feeling, passion, intention, the transfer of the cook's energy and emotion into the food. Right now, you are cooking with your head, analyzing, calculating, trying to meet specific standards. But you are not cooking with your heart. The food tastes competent, but not inspired. It tastes like an exam answer rather than a meal prepared with love. I'm not sure I know how to cook with my heart. You cook thinking of someone you love. You cook with the intention of bringing joy or comfort or pleasure to another person. Right now you are cooking only to meet my standards and pass your examination, which is understandable but limiting. You must remember why you wanted to cook in the first place. Who taught you? Who inspired you? My grandmother, Nia said, immediately. She taught me everything basic I know about cooking. She grew up in rural Mississippi and learned from her mother, who learned from her mother. She used to say that a good meal could solve almost any problem, comfort almost any pain, bring people together across almost any divide. Food was her love language. Then make this dish one more time, but this time cook for your grandmother, Chef Kang said gently. Make it as if you are preparing it specifically for her, to show her what you have learned, to honor what she taught you. Put your love for her into the food. Stop thinking about my standards or the examination. Cook from your heart. Nia started again, but this time she let herself remember clearly. Her grandmother's tiny kitchen in Detroit, the way she'd patiently taught young Nia to cook collard greens and cornbread and fried chicken and mac and cheese, the way every meal had been prepared with such care and intention. Like feeding people was the most important work in the world. The way food had been genuine love, made visible and tangible. She made the Vietnamese soup with those memories guiding her hands, infusing her movements. She tasted and adjusted based on instinct and feeling rather than just analysis and anxiety. She plated with genuine care rather than just technical precision. When it was done, Chef Kang tasted it, and his entire expression changed. Something shifted in his eyes. Surprise, pleasure, deep recognition. "This," he said quietly, and there was something almost reverent in his tone. "This is what I have been waiting to see from you since you arrived 8 weeks ago." This has soul. This has heart. This is the difference between a technically competent cook and a true chef. Do you feel the difference yourself? Yes, I do. It's like I was actually present in the cooking instead of just going through motions. Exactly. Remember this feeling always. This is where great cooking comes from, not from anxiety about meeting standards, but from genuine desire to create something meaningful. Every time you cook from now on, cook from this place. They stood there in the quiet, empty kitchen, and suddenly the space between them felt charged with something more than just the student-teacher relationship. The air felt different, heavier, more intimate. "Miss Foster Nia," he said, using her first name for the very first time in 8 weeks. "May I ask you something somewhat personal?" "Of course, chef." "Why did you apply to this program specifically? What made you want to come all the way to Korea to study cooking when there are excellent programs in America that would have been much more convenient?" "Because everyone says you're the best teacher in the world for young chefs who want to be exceptional. I wanted to learn from the best. I wanted to push myself beyond what I thought was possible." That is a professional reason, which I appreciate. But what is your deeper personal reason? Why do you cook at all? What draws you to this career? Nia thought carefully before answering. "Because when I cook for people, I can show them love and care in a way I sometimes struggle to show with words. Food is my primary language for connection, my way of saying things I don't always know how to say verbally. My grandmother taught me that feeding people is one of the most fundamental human expressions of love. I want to learn to speak that language with real fluency and eloquence, not just basic competence." Chef Kang looked at her with an expression she'd never seen from him before. Something soft, something vulnerable, something that looked almost like wonder. "Your grandmother was a very wise woman. Food is absolutely love made visible and tangible. This is what I believe as well, though many chefs forget it in pursuit of technical perfection or critical acclaim." He paused, seeming to struggle with something internal. "I should not say this. It is inappropriate given our professional relationship. But I must be honest with you because I do not know how to be otherwise. You have become more than simply a student to me over these past 8 weeks. Watching you grow and develop, seeing your genuine passion for cooking, your determination to improve constantly, your willingness to push through difficulty, you have become someone I think about even when I should not be thinking about you at all." Nia's heart started pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Chef Kang, Junwoo, when we are alone like this, without other students present, you may call me Junwoo." "Junwoo," she repeated, testing the name carefully on her tongue. "I think about you too, more than I probably should. You're brilliant and demanding, and you push me to be better than I ever thought I could be. But there's something else too, something deeper, something I feel when we're working together that I've never felt with anyone else before." "This is extremely complicated," Junwoo said, but he was moving closer. "I am your instructor. There are rules, ethical guidelines, power dynamics we must consider carefully. I know, but I'm an adult. I can make my own choices about my own life. Can you truly? Or does the fact that I hold significant power over your education and your future career compromise your ability to choose freely? This is not a rhetorical question. I need you to think about this seriously." It was a genuinely fair question that Nia had to consider carefully and honestly. "I think I can separate those things. Yes, you're my instructor and you evaluate my work. But what I feel for you exists independent of that evaluation. I felt this attraction before I even knew you saw me as more than just another student." "You are absolutely certain?" "I'm certain. I know my own mind and heart." Junwoo reached out slowly and cupped her face gently with one hand. His palm was warm, his skin slightly calloused from years and years of knife work and professional cooking. "I want to kiss you. But if I do this, everything changes irrevocably. Once this line is crossed, we cannot uncross it. You must be absolutely certain you want this." "I'm certain. Kiss me." He did, slow and deep and thorough, like he was savoring a perfectly prepared dish, tasting every element carefully. Nia melted into him completely, her hands fisting in his chef's coat, pulling him closer, eliminating the remaining space between their bodies. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Junwoo rested his forehead against hers. "This is dangerous," he said quietly. "If the Institute administration discovers we are involved romantically, there will be serious consequences. For me, certainly, possibly for you as well. Then we'll be very careful, very discreet. You are truly willing to risk that? For you? For this? Yes. Absolutely yes." Over the following weeks, they fell into a careful, delicate dance of maintaining professional distance in public while stealing private intimacy whenever possible. After classes ended and other students left, Nia would frequently stay late to practice, and Junwoo would stay to supervise and provide guidance. They would cook together, discussing technique and flavor and food philosophy. And they would kiss between courses, touch between tastings, gradually fall deeper into something that felt increasingly inevitable and right. 10 weeks into the program, during a late-night cooking session in the empty institute kitchen, Junwoo told her about his background in more depth. How he'd grown up in Seoul in a wealthy, traditional family that had very specific expectations for him. How his parents had wanted him to become a businessman like his father and grandfather. How he discovered cooking almost by accident during a summer study abroad program in Lyon, France, when he was 20. How he'd fallen completely in love with the craft and artistry of professional cooking. How he'd fought his family for years to pursue culinary arts instead of business school, eventually defying their wishes entirely. How he'd worked his way up from dishwasher to line cook to sous chef to head chef, building his reputation and skills through obsessive dedication. How he'd eventually built his restaurant empire through absolute refusal to compromise on quality. "My parents still do not fully approve of my career choice," he admitted as they sat together in his office sharing wine after completing a particularly successful dish. "They see cooking as service work, beneath our family's social status and position. They wanted me to marry an appropriate Korean woman from a good family, produce heirs, and run the family investment business that my grandfather founded. Instead, I am unmarried at 36, running restaurants and teaching students. They consider it a significant failure and disappointment." "You're not a failure. You're brilliant. You're changing the entire culinary world." "Perhaps, professionally, I have achieved success, but personally, I am also very alone. I have dedicated absolutely everything to cooking and building this institute. I have no real life outside my work, no relationships that lasted because I consistently chose work over people. Until you. Until me. You make me want to choose differently, to create space for something other than just work, to imagine a future that includes genuine partnership, not just professional success and achievement." "I want that too," Nia said, taking his hand. "I'm falling for you, hard and fast and probably unwisely, but I can't seem to stop it." "I do not want you to stop it. I am falling for you as well. You have become absolutely essential to me in ways I did not expect or prepare for at all." 12 weeks into the program, 3 months exactly, everything came to a dramatic head. The Institute was hosting a major fundraising dinner where scholarship students would prepare and serve an elaborate multi-course tasting menu to wealthy donors who supported the scholarship program financially. It was extremely high pressure, a chance to showcase skills, network with potential employers and investors, and demonstrate the value of the Institute's training. Every student was competing internally to be assigned the most prestigious and challenging courses. Chef Kang announced the course assignments publicly in front of the entire class. Nia was assigned the most difficult and prestigious course, the fish course, which required absolutely precise timing, delicate technique, and complete confidence. After the announcement, several students approached her with comments that made her stomach sink. "Congratulations on getting the fish course," said Marie, but her tone was distinctly odd. "Must be incredibly nice to have special advantages working in your favor." "What does that mean exactly?" Nia asked, though she had a sinking feeling she knew. "Come on, Nia. We all see how Chef Kang treats you, differently. The extra attention, the private lessons that he doesn't offer anyone else, the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. Some of us have been wondering if there's something going on between you two." "There's nothing going on," Nia lied, her stomach churning. "He's just harder on me because he sees potential. That's his teaching method." "Right. And the fact that you got assigned the most prestigious course is just pure coincidence?" Nia went directly to Junwoo's office immediately after class ended. "We have a serious problem. Students are starting to suspect something between us. Marie made a very direct comment about me getting special treatment." He looked up from his desk, his expression immediately concerned. "What exactly happened?" "Marie specifically said that everyone sees how you treat me differently, how you look at me, that I got the fish course assignment because of personal favoritism." I denied it, obviously, but I don't think she believed me at all. "This is exactly what I feared would happen eventually. Even when we are extremely careful, people notice patterns." He stood and came around his desk. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know. I don't want to stop seeing you. But I also don't want my achievements questioned. I earned that fish course assignment legitimately. I've worked harder than anyone." "You absolutely did earn it based purely on merit. Based on skill alone, you are unquestionably the most qualified student for that particular challenge. But perception matters as much as reality in these situations. If other students genuinely believe you received favor because of personal involvement with me, it undermines your success and damages both our reputations." "So what do we do? What are our actual options?" "We have 3 realistic options," Junwoo said seriously. "First, we end this relationship immediately and maintain only strictly professional distance until your program concludes in 6 more weeks. Second, we go completely public with the relationship and face whatever consequences come, including potential ethics investigation. Third, we continue exactly as we are and hope suspicions do not develop into actual proof." "I don't want to stop seeing you. I do not want that either. But I also do not want to damage your career before it even begins. You have enormous talent. You deserve success based purely on your skills, not to have every achievement questioned because of your relationship with me. Then we go public. We admit the relationship openly and face the consequences together." "You would genuinely risk that? For you? For us? Absolutely, yes." "Then we tell the complete truth. Tomorrow I will inform the Institute administration about our relationship. There will likely be a thorough investigation. I may face serious disciplinary action for inappropriate conduct with a student. But at least the truth will be completely known and you will not have to lie." The next day, Junwoo requested a formal meeting with the Institute's executive director and the head of the ethics board. He explained the situation with complete honesty, that he and Nia had developed genuine feelings for each other, that they had been involved romantically for several weeks, that he wanted absolute transparency, even if it resulted in consequences for him professionally. The investigation took 8 long days. During that time, Nia and Junwoo maintained absolutely no personal contact and complete professional distance in all public settings. He showed her no favoritism in class. He gave her no special attention. He was actually noticeably harder on her than usual, perhaps deliberately overcompensating. Finally, the ethics board issued their official decision. Junwoo was formally reprimanded for poor judgment and inappropriate behavior, but not removed from his position as director or head instructor. However, he was completely recused from evaluating Nia's final examination work. Another senior instructor would assess her final practical exam and determine her final grade independently. Any personal relationship between them must remain strictly private and separate from any professional evaluation until after her official graduation. It was genuinely the best possible outcome under difficult circumstances. The major fundraising dinner arrived. Nia prepared her fish course, a delicate preparation of halibut with citrus beurre blanc, seasonal vegetables, and microgreens, with absolute precision and confidence. She'd practiced it dozens and dozens of times. She knew every single technique, every exact timing, every flavor component intimately. When she served it to the wealthy donors, the response was overwhelmingly enthusiastic. Multiple restaurant owners asked for her contact information to discuss potential positions. A 3 Michelin star chef from Singapore offered her a sous chef position on the spot. A food critic from a major publication said it was the best fish course she'd eaten all year. After the dinner, after cleanup, after all the other students had left, Nia found Junwoo waiting in the empty kitchen. "You were absolutely brilliant tonight," he said quietly. "That dish was genuine perfection, and now no one can possibly say you achieved it through favoritism. You did it entirely on your own merit, evaluated by someone with no connection to you whatsoever." "We did it," Nia corrected. "Everything you taught me, every technique you pushed me to perfect, every correction you made, that all went into tonight's success. No, this was you, your skill, your dedication, your passion, your heart. I was merely the fortunate person who got to witness your growth. And the person I fell in love with along the way. You love me? Yes, I love you. Completely. I probably have for weeks, but was too afraid to say it out loud. I love you as well. From that very first day when you challenged me publicly in front of the entire class, I think I began falling for you then. Your fire, your absolute refusal to accept anything less than real teaching, your determination to be genuinely excellent, all of it drew me to you." They kissed there in the empty kitchen, and it felt like the culmination of months of tension and connection and partnership finally coming together completely. Nia graduated 6 weeks later with the highest marks in her class. She had job offers from restaurants literally around the world. But the offer she accepted was the one from Junwoo. "Work with me," he proposed the night after her graduation ceremony. "Be my true partner, not just romantically, but professionally as well. I have been planning to open a new restaurant in New York, Korean-American fusion, combining traditional Korean techniques with American ingredients and soul food influences. I want you to be my co-chef, equal partners in every sense of the word." "Equal partners?" "Equal in absolutely every way. Your name on the restaurant alongside mine. Your vision shaping the menu. Your voice in every single decision. I do not want an employee. I want a genuine partner who challenges me, who brings completely new perspectives, who makes the food better than anything I could create alone. Yes, 1,000 times yes." They opened the restaurant 14 months later in Manhattan's Tribeca neighborhood. They called it Convergence, a name that represented the merging of their cultures, their cuisines, their individual visions, their lives. The food was incredible, a genuine fusion that honored both Korean and African-American culinary traditions while creating something entirely new and unprecedented. The reviews were stellar from the very first week. Within 6 months, they were being seriously discussed for Michelin consideration. Within 1 year, They'd won their first Michelin star. Within 2 years, they had 2 stars. And through it all, Junwoo and Nia were true equal partners in every sense. In the saprast, kitchen, and in life. They pushed each other constantly to be better, challenged each other to try new things, supported each other through the incredible stress of running a high-end restaurant. 3 years after the restaurant opened, Junwoo proposed in their kitchen after service one Friday night. "You have made me better in absolutely every way imaginable," he said, getting down on one knee right there in front of their entire kitchen staff. "As a chef, as a teacher, as a human being. I want to spend the rest of my life cooking with you, creating with you, building with you, loving you. Will you marry me?" "On one condition," Nia said with a smile. "What condition?" "You never tell me to open my mouth and take it again without at least asking nicely first." Junwoo laughed. The first time she'd heard him truly laugh without any reservation whatsoever. "I promise to always ask nicely. Unless we are in the middle of a chaotic dinner service and you need to taste something, immediately to save a dish that's about to go out wrong. Deal? Then yes, I'll marry you." They married 6 months later in a beautiful ceremony that blended Korean and American traditions. Junwoo's parents attended, and while they were still adjusting to their son's unconventional choices, they could not deny his obvious happiness. "Your wife is truly remarkable," Junwoo's mother said to him in Korean during the reception. "She has made you smile more in 2 years than I saw you smile in the previous 34. She has made me complete." Junwoo agreed quietly in Korean. "She is my partner in everything." 5 years after they first met, Nia and Junwoo had 3 successful restaurants, 3 Michelin stars between them, and a son who was growing up fluently bilingual and bicultural, cooking both Korean and Seoul food, speaking English and Korean with equal fluency, understanding that love could cross any cultural boundary when 2 people were willing to meet in the middle. "Do you remember that first day?" Nia asked one evening, as they worked side by side in their test kitchen, developing new dishes for the next season's menu. "When you literally made me taste that sauce and told me to open my mouth and take it? I remember thinking you were absolutely terrified of me, and also incredibly talented. I knew immediately then that you would be important to me somehow. I just did not know yet that you would become absolutely everything. I was terrified. You were so intense, so demanding, so uncompromising. I genuinely thought you were just being cruel. I was being a teacher, pushing you specifically because I could see exactly what you could become with proper guidance. Was I too harsh sometimes? Sometimes, yes. But you were also right. I needed to be pushed hard. I needed someone who believed in me enough to demand excellence rather than accepting mediocrity. And now you demand excellence from our staff the exact same way I demanded it from you. The student becomes the teacher. I learned from the absolute best, even if he did have very unconventional methods of making me taste things. Would you like me to demonstrate that particular technique again?" Junwoo asked with a smile. "Only if you ask very nicely this time." "Please, my love, my partner, my wife, open your mouth and taste this sauce I have prepared specifically for you." Nia opened her mouth, and Junwoo placed a spoonful past her lips. The sauce was absolutely perfect, as she knew it would be. Everything they created together was perfect because they brought out the very best in each other. "Excellent," she declared, "though I think it needs one final ingredient." "What ingredient?" "This." She kissed him, tasting the sauce still lingering on his lips. They laughed together in their kitchen, partners in every possible sense, having built something genuinely beautiful from that first challenging, intense, uncomfortable moment when a demanding chef told a scared student to open her mouth and take what he was offering. She'd taken it, and it had changed absolutely everything.